Phones? If not,
Not with a
okay.
mic though.
That's okay. It doesn't have to be with a mic.
Oh, really? Is that better?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you're still wearing. Hi, everyone. We're gonna get started in a second. But if you, it doesn't matter if it has a mic. It's just that way I won't hear myself. But I actually think I hear you. Okay. Say something. Hello. Say.
Hello.
All right. I don't hear an echo. All right. Cool. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Katie Halper Show. We're going to be joined by Jimmy Dore soon. But first, I want to have another guest. Really excited to have her on. Good friend of the show, good friend of mine. Her name is Kate Levin. Kate Levin. I'm really playing up the Irish thing. You are half Irish, though, right?
I'm loving the brogue. You've obviously been working
on it. I'm a Bernie brogue. And Kate is a writer. You may have seen her in the Bernie Bro video I did, where she explains why she's like Cardi B in many ways, but most importantly because she's I believe you said I'm with Cardi B on this one. I support Bernie Sanders. Also, she had her photo taken behind Bernie Sanders because she was picked in like a lottery after appearing in this video. Right? You were picked in a lottery?
Very competitive process. No, I was just in line outside of the Bernie event, and I was approached, by one of the organizers to be.
But they were probably like, "You look familiar."
Yeah, that was probably it.
I saw you in a really cool video. Anyway, yeah. But also, besides that, and being someone I've known since I was a wee lass, Kate Levin is a writer, really good writer, and she's also a. Are you a lecturer? What's the actual?
I'm an assistant professor now, actually.
Oh my God, you're an assistant professor? Wow.
I know.
Assistant professor. I would have had you on earlier. Just kidding. She's been on my show before.
Yeah.
Assistant professor. Wow. At University of Southern California. Mm-hmm. And she's also the co-director of the University of Southern California Prison Education Project. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm a big fan of the show.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're really happy to see you, to hear you. Tell us what this. And you're a assistant or adjunct. She's an assistant professor.
Yeah.
I don't know what's so complicated about that. Assistant professor. Maybe that's an Alex B. Morris reference. But anyway, yeah, an assistant professor, Dr. Kate Levin.
I am not a doctor.
But you come from a family of doctors.
Nobody mistake me for a doctor. Yeah, I mean, I'm doctor adjacent, so let's just say that.
Okay, you're masterful, Kate Levin. You have a master's.
Yeah, I have an advanced degree in short fiction.
In short fiction, wow. Yeah. Okay, you are the son of you are the daughter of a doctor.
Correct.
DOD, and you are the sister of a doctor.
Correct.
An SOD, and your brother just won an award.
He did.
For being a very good teacher doctor.
We're very proud of him.
Yeah, we're very proud of him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have him on the show.
You should. Oh, you really should.
He's an ER doctor.
In fact, I'm going to get out of here. You should just call
All right,
me.
Joey Levin. Yeah. But Kate and I met at summer camp, and you, both of us come from lefty families. Your dad had a really interesting political life, was a occupational physician, which I'd never heard of before meeting him. Mm-hmm. And they work with people who get sick on the job. Right? That's
right. Yeah. I think everyone hears that and mistakes it for occupational therapy, which is different.
Very important.
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah. So he was an occupational and environmental, medicine physician, basically.
Right.
He treated people who got sick and injured on their job.
Yeah. And also worked with the Young Lords.
Yeah, he did. He was their medical director. When they took over Lincoln Hospital, they used his medical license to prescribe methadone to the patients there because they were running a detox program.
Oh, that's really interesting. Wow.
Yeah, it's chronicled in We Took the Streets by
Johanna Fernandez?
By Mickey Melendez.
Mickey Melendez.
I haven't read the new Young Lords book.
Oh, right. Right. We got to make sure. It's a little bit old.
Okay.
I don't know why I said that. Like, that was very not a little bit old. That sounded very like ESL in an endearing way.
Well, it can't be that old, right? Is it like in a year or two?
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so, anyway, okay, by the way, just want to make a general announcement. Anyone who says that they're here for another guest or says anything kind of infighting, I will put you on a timeout because I get really annoyed by it. It's just rude and it makes me want to not have you in the chat. So I'm giving you guys a warning. I did that last show too. Jimmy was never going to be here at 9:00. Okay. He's coming later. So everyone calm down. You're all rude. And,
What is happening?
I have a lot of really obnoxious people who watch the show apparently. And they're rude and misogynist. So they're all on timeouts. And anyone who's commenting and not doing that, you're good. Like Chair Duke. Thank you, Chair Duke. Here, watch this. This is how you treat two ladies, not just a lady, but two ladies. All right.
Can I see the chat? Or can
oh yeah, it's on YouTube. Look, I'm gonna show you. Can you see this now?
Yeah.
All right, good. There you go. Okay. Katie, the chat is all right. So yeah.
What have you gotten me into here?
They love it. They really love you. Every now and then people are just like, like, oh, where's the other person? Or this person's an idiot. No one said that about you, but people are happy to see Jimmy Dore. And they're also happy to see you. Yeah. And in fact, I feel like if Jimmy Dore were here, he would say something really offensive on my behalf and Kate's behalf. So don't worry, we're getting a lot of good. You're right. They're saying save yourself from the chat. We don't even want to look at it. The only thing, you don't like the policing of this chat? Well, fine. Go find another show. Sorry, Garden Gnome. I mean, I think you're all right. Here's some wine funds. Thank you. All right. Hi, everyone. Okay. All righty. This is a joke. So, all right. I get very distracted by this chat. Okay. Now.
Yeah.
No, someone doesn't like being lectured. Well, you know what? If you don't like being lectured, this is not the chat for you. See what I just did there?
Yeah.
All right. So, Kate, you write nonfiction. You write creative nonfiction, and tell us about this prison education project that you are, of which you are the co-director.
That's right. So we offer classes in a number of Southern California prison facilities. Obviously, we've had to switch to a virtual format now, like everybody. But we basically, we're trying to build a prison to college pipeline. So we're trying to basically, at a minimum, make life less miserable for people who are in prison, and then give them access to higher education and go in and, offer classes and everything like that. But we're also hoping to build a pathway for people to come to the university if they want to.
Awesome. And what has it sounds really weird to say awesome after something that serious, but it's good. Yeah. Tell us what has happened, what the challenges have been since COVID, what the kind of silver linings, I guess, have been also.
Yeah. Well, things are horrific in prisons right now as far as COVID goes. I mean, you can only imagine, the prisons are, they were packed. They were over full at the beginning of the pandemic. So all the conditions were awful. It's not possible to socially distance. In California, they were transferring people from one prison to another. So, taking the virus from one area to another. You have a lot of people who are vulnerable in there because you have people who are older, you have people who haven't received good health care, who have a lot of underlying conditions, all kinds of issues in there that make it just ripe for, an explosion, a real public health crisis within a crisis. So anyway, so obviously we can't go in there in person and offer our classes anymore. But we can offer them virtually, and we are doing that. We're also, if there's any, I don't know about silver lining, but we're kind of like directing a lot of our energies in our program to kind of ramping up the activism and advocacy we can do around supporting people who are incarcerated and their families and their loved ones.
Well, I guess how much was it online before? How much of the education was online before?
It wasn't because, one nice thing was we would go in and we didn't have any technology. We would bring like notebooks and pencils and, written materials. And we'd be there kind of just engaging with each other and the text. And it was actually a really great way to have a class. So it wasn't online at all before. And, frankly, I think this fall semester, I'm really going to miss. I know I'll miss, that in-person engagement. I mean, it's really complicated and messed up in all kinds of ways because, we from the university go in and then we're able to leave 2 hours later, and our
Right.
students are not. So there's lots of contradictions there. But anyway, so we've had to entirely switch to an online format. One cool thing is we are kind of getting more into the realm of political education. So we're starting a speaker series over Zoom, looking at issues related to police and prison abolition. We didn't really have the time for that before, but now since we are, we don't travel to and from the facilities, we are able to put on something like this. So that's a good thing.
Great. And
Yeah.
what else? What was anything like? What have you learned? Such a corny question, but anything surprising that you learned from doing this? Any surprising interactions? Any surprising things you learned about the prison system?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Well, I went into this. I mean, I started teaching in prisons a few years ago, and I went into it with all kinds of, um, crazy, messed up assumptions and attitudes about who I would find in the classroom there, and what potential dangers might exist there. But really, I've never felt, even though the prison is a place of kind of like, controlled violence. I've never felt unsafe because of the students that I've interacted with. Only because of, frankly, the guards and other things that were going on in the prison, where they were trying to kind of control people's movements and things like that. And I've just been astonished by like just how brilliant some of the writers are that I've met in prison. So yeah, those have been some amazing surprises. They shouldn't have been surprises, but they were.
It shouldn't have been surprising, you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you can have an intellectual understanding of what a prison is and how it operates in society. But still, if you grow up in this country, you still, I think, internalize all kinds of screwed up ideas about who goes to prison and why.
Right.
But certainly I carried those in there with me.
And how? So you deal with women's prisons, and you have a co-director. Is there a gender like? Are you
No,
given
we're
access to how do you? Yeah, I don't know how it works, honestly.
yeah, we're in we've worked in mostly men's facilities actually, but we do work with one women's facility.
So you before it was Zoom, before
Yeah.
COVID, what was the process? You go in, like you have to go
Yeah,
through.
we'd go in. So basically, I and usually a co-instructor, my co-director Nick. We were teaching creative writing workshops in there, and we'd usually bring a few undergraduate students with us. It'd be like every Saturday for a couple hours, and we'd drive there. We'd go in. There's a process where you have to get checked in. There's a lot of security and everything like that. And then, you kind of sit down. You eventually make your way to a classroom that looks like kind of a fifth grade classroom, with kind of these old wooden desks and kind of these like laminated motivational posters on the wall and maybe a few old, desktop computers, that kind of thing. And then, and you walk through the yard on the way to the class, and yeah, and then your students file in. They have to kind of present their IDs and everything like that, and then eventually you just get started, and then you just get immersed in whatever you're reading and writing about that day.
And you teach. Can you talk about what you teach at University of Southern California, and also what you teach in the facilities that you teach at?
Yeah, sure. So at USC, I teach argumentative writing classes about social issues. So it's called Writing and Critical Reasoning. And, we're basically giving students a chance to kind of like think and write more deeply about issues like health and education and, the law, that kind of thing. In the prisons, well, one of the things that's freeing is I'm not bound. We're not actually offering academic credit yet. I hope that we can soon. So I'm not actually bound by the things that I teach in USC. So we can offer creative writing classes. We can be a little freer, with what we do in there. So that's been cool.
Awesome. And what else can people do if they want to support this or get involved? People are asking how they can teach in prison. People are also bringing up the fact that Chris Hedges also teaches in prison and brings attention to this cause.
Yeah. So there are not most, but a lot of universities have prison education programs of some kind. So a good thing to do would be to, see, what your local university has going. You can Google Prison Education Project if you're here in California, because it's part of we're like an extension of a larger nonprofit. Even though we have our own kind of chapter at USC. So yeah, that's where I would start. If you're in the New York area, NYU has, a really robust prison education program. BARD, there's the BARD Prison Initiative. So but I think starting there, seeing what your local university has going is a good way to go.
And what about your own labor organizing at USC? Can you talk about that?
Yeah,
or you have to sign an NDA.
What's that?
You have to sign an NDA, non-disclosure.
So we, several years ago, we tried to form a union. So I'm not technically an adjunct, but like the majority of the people who teach at USC and across the country, I'm a contingent faculty member, which means I don't have tenure and I'm not on a tenure track. So, something like 70%, I think. So.
Something like what? You cut out. Something like
70% of something like that. Faculty across the board in higher ed are not on a tenure track. And that was the inverse like 30 years ago, where the majority were on a tenure track. So a few years ago, we tried to organize a union at USC. To make a long story short, we were crushed like a bug by the employer. There's a big protracted legal battle. It was actually pretty heartbreaking because the bargaining unit I was in only lost by about 8 votes or something like that. So, and there was a voluminous propaganda campaign on the part of the employer to vote against the union, and it ended up being pretty effective. And anyway, so. Flash forward to kind of where we are now. So we don't have a union, but we are in the process of forming a chapter, an AAUP chapter, American Association of University Professionals, I think it is, the P. So it's not the same as a union, but it's still a way for faculty to act collectively. And I'm hoping that, it can be a stepping stone to an actual, collective bargaining arrangement.
Is there anyone we can kind of like intimidate or threaten or harass, like as if we're some old school union types?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
proud union thug right here.
Yeah. Basically.
Is there? You want me to give you some addresses?
Give me some names, addresses. Yeah, whatevs, anything that works. Yeah. I mean, you also don't have to, but I mean, was anyone particularly? Anyone you want to shame?
No. I mean, yes, sure, but I think it would be more strategic to say that USC, like many higher ed institutions, they operate like a corporation. The board of trustees, has no interest in us forming a union, and I do think with all of the there's an activist, we're in an activist moment, right? So there have been a lot of new activist groups springing up on campus, or or gaining some new life on campus. So I think over the next couple of years, I'm optimistic that we can act more collectively and more militantly. So hold off on showing up outside anybody's door with your your weapon of choice.
Right.
But I'll let you know.
Yeah. And anything else you want to make sure people know about the about prison education, about what's happening? I mean, you were mentioning before that, like, you know, all these mistakes have been made and people obviously can't social distance in prison.
Yeah.
Um, have you seen, I mean, do you think this is an opportunity at all to reach people who wouldn't otherwise care? I keep hoping that something will come of all of this. Like, you know, we'll learn that we're only as healthy as our least healthy among us, like all these socialist lessons, or not even socialist, just kind of like cooperative lessons. Do you see that taking off at all?
Yeah, I do. I mean, so you said like, what can people do? The main thing is people need to be released from prison. So, you know, what people can do is connect with their local, you know, uh, like justice reform nonprofit or organization. And, you know, there's so many campaigns springing up to lobby governors to release people from prison, which they should do. You know, here in California, they release some people, not enough. And that should be a lesson to us that whatever any person might have been afraid of, right? Like, oh no, you release people from prison, you know, things are going to go haywire, right? It didn't happen. You know, there's no like public safety rationale for so many of these people, right, to be in prison. You know, it really puts the lie to that. So people need to be released. There was a study, I forget what university, I think it was out of Wisconsin, I think, that recently demonstrated that the best predictor of how hard COVID hit an area was its incarceration rate. So it's bad for the people in prison. It's bad for the surrounding community. So people need to be released, and that's a good place for people to put their energy if they're looking to get active around this.
Yeah. Any changes that you've seen among people who like wouldn't otherwise be supportive? Just curious.
Well,
or has there, I mean, it also seems like an opportunity for prison guards, or I mean administrators, to maybe realize that they're participating in a pretty fucked up system. I mean, to be fair, it's probably hard for them to not have realized that before, but I'm wondering if this, which endangers them as well, has made people who would otherwise maybe not be sympathetic kind of look at it differently.
Maybe. I mean, it's certainly true that they're in danger. I mean, I just read that a guard died at one of our Southern California prisons here. I forget which one it was. But one of the issues that you have is like these prisons are like superstructures. You know, they're like huge employers. You know, like they're in a town, right? And like so much of the town is employed like at that prison, you know, and their unions are very powerful. Like, you know, it's deeply entrenched, and a lot depends on that. You know, like I remember like going to teach in one of the facilities. I think it was at Chino. We teach at the Chino Institution for Men, or the California Institution for Men in Chino. And I remember someone, you know, one of the staff members there who was like escorting us to our classroom was like lamenting that they had empty beds at that time, you know, like they needed to be fuller, you know, like to make the whole thing work. And so that, you know, so that's a problem, you know, like that there's so much invested in keeping people in prison. So yeah, you know, I'm hoping that because of this emergency and this crisis, you know, it will force some people to be let out. But I don't know if it's going to lead to any like mass awakening about like, you know, who should be in prison and why. Right. Although I do think the recent activism around like defunding the police and all the, you know, amazing Black Lives Matter activism has done a lot to raise questions, even like in the mainstream, about like, well, which communities are over policed? Why do so many people end up in prison? You know, like who, right. You know, why do so many people who commit crimes not end up in prison? You know, like, right. I think a lot of people have kind of woken up to the idea that the question of who is in prison has very little to do with guilt or innocence.
Right.
So,
yeah. All right. Well, great. Thank you so much for coming on, Kate. We really appreciate it. We would love to have you back. Yeah, people are asking, shouldn't George Bush be in prison? All of that stuff. So
no, he's busy painting.
I know. Well, he should, maybe if he had painted, maybe if he'd been allowed to be a painter, millions of Iraqis wouldn't have been killed.
Yeah, if only.
A historical throwback, callback.
You should write that counterfactual novel.
I will, right? Yeah. And then maybe Hitler survives too because he learned because he was allowed to paint, and then they meet.
Yeah.
Not in a bunker.
We'll collaborate on that.
We'll collaborate on that. Yeah. Are you calling me a Hitler collaborator, a collaborationist, or a Bush collaborationist?
I wasn't, but
no. All right. Well, you can. I prefer. I'm actually feel disrespected that you haven't. That's my preferred pronoun. Hitler Bush collaborator. So next time, maybe you'll be able to see me and center me. Well, thank you so much, Kate Levin. Where can people find you and find your this thing you're doing, this prison teaching education project?
You can go to you can find our program at dornsife.usc.edu and then /PEP, I think it is.
Okay, great. I put the link in there, but I'll add it.
Yeah, that's or that would be great. To find a little bit more about our program.
All right, great. Thank you, Kate.
Thanks.
Bye. You too.
Have a good rest of the show.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. All right, that was Kate Levin, old friend of mine. I mean, young person, youthful person. She's been my friend for a while. And you guys are really excited. I know you are because you've been talking about it. You've been typing about it, chomping at the bit for our next guest, who you may have heard of. His name is Jimmy Dore. And he's about to join us in a few minutes. Just going to give him some time, make sure he's set up, make sure he's comfortable, putting on his headphones, stuff like that. And I'm going to just read. Thank you, Mary Bishop, for saying Kate is very cool and she's doing beautiful work with inmates. Education is key. Couldn't agree more. And on that note of agreement, let us bring in our next guest, the guy a lot of you are here to see, James Dore. James Dore. I'm going to call you James. How are you?
I'm doing great, Katie. How are you? Boy, you look fantastic.
Thanks. It's that ring light. I got that ring light.
Oh, the ring light.
It's really good.
I should get that ring light.
Yeah, I just have it right in front of me. It's a little bit like, what's the word? It can be a little harsh, but.
Oh, really? No, it makes it really, it makes you look like a starlet.
Thank you. That's, I starlet identify.
You must be getting a lot of offers these days. You got your summer kissed cheeks.
Yeah. And my sun-kissed hair.
And your sun-kissed hair.
Very naturally sun-kissed hair. Yeah, I like the gray, Jimmy.
Oh, look at how gray my hair is.
I mean, yeah.
And I haven't had it cut since March 1st, so it's as long as it's ever been, I think, in my adult life.
You could cut that easily, though, right?
I could cut it.
But are you gonna grow it to like my length?
I'm gonna see what happens until there's a vaccine. I'm gonna keep it going.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get a ponytail. I don't know.
Oh my God.
I've never done this. I've never gone gray.
The gray is good. I think you're not gonna go back. What do you think?
I hate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just when I look.
I think it looks really good.
Because in my mind's eye, I'm still like 34 years old. Like in my mind's eye, I'm 34 years old. And then when I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh, fuck, who's that guy?
No, you look young.
Well, I'm trying to get the Donald Trump tan. That's what's going on. I've been sitting out in my backyard every day for about 4 hours.
Someone was joking. They were like, Jimmy must be sun tanning.
I am. I literally am. I haven't suntanned in probably 20 years at least. And so this COVID thing, I get up every morning. I go in my backyard and I do, my journaling. I call it my morning pages. So I just write 3 pages longhand, stream of consciousness. And that's been very helpful in my whole life. I've done that my whole adult life.
I mean, you call it your morning pages, right?
Yeah.
That's a Julia Cameron thing?
Yes.
Right. From The Artist's Way?
Did you know Julie Cameron was married to
Scorsese?
Yes.
Didn't I tell you that? Did I tell you that? Or did you know that another way?
I looked it up. You looked it up.
Okay.
Because I found out that Isabella Rossellini was also with Scorsese. And I was like, Jesus Christ, being a director really pays off, right? And so I was like, well, I wonder who else he was with. So I looked up. He's been married like 3 or 4 times. And he actually was married to Julie Cameron. Shortest marriage. I think it was like a year. But they had a daughter.
Wow. They were efficient. They were more efficient than he was with his other wives.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, So I don't know if the people who are your patrons are hip to who she is and that book and how much of a help it is to artists.
Yeah.
It was to me.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like I don't know if most people know that about you. Do you talk about that on your show about the artist way?
No, I don't talk about no, maybe only in passing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's cool because it's a different side of you, Jimmy. Like when I interviewed you last, I remember I asked you about your family and your mom, and it's just cool because I don't know. Yeah, well, I don't think I don't think most people think of Jimmy Dore. They're like, oh, Jimmy Dore, he does a lot of stuff like the artist way. He does his morning pages, right? It's like a different side of you.
Yeah, so I was always into kind of self-help and spirituality and things like that. I used to read a lot of, I got introduced through I used to watch Phil Donahue when I was a kid, right? And he would have on Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer. And so I would read Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra, and that was my Ageless Body, Timeless Mind was the first one I read. It was Deepak Chopra's book. And then I read a Wayne Dyer's book, You'll Believe It. You'll See It When You Believe It. And then Pulling Your Own Strings. Anyway, so all that stuff, it helps you get in touch with yourself. And, I didn't want to act unconsciously. I had a lot of bad examples. I was the youngest kid in my family, so I had a lot of bad examples of how not to be.
Right.
And I was like, I didn't want to end up doing things unconsciously. And so as Carl Jung says, who I've been a big fan of because we're born on the same day.
I didn't know that.
He says that that enlightenment doesn't come from learning something new. It comes from making the unconscious conscious. And until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate.
Wow.
So, like you don't even, the way you were raised, the way you were socialized, all that stuff, it's all internalized. And so then most people go through life reflexively. They don't actually know why they do what they do or why they like what they like, or even the kind of sex they like. Why do they like it? They don't have any idea about what motivates them and so their life just kind of happens to them. And I was at a young age, I was determined to not let my life happen to me. I was going to choose the life that I wanted, and I was going to not let anyone keep me from it. And I wanted to make sure I knew what I wanted, right? So a lot of people have that problem where they don't know where their wants are as differentiated from their family unit or their caretaker, their primary caretaker, or even their community, right? You see a lot of people struggle with religion. Like I just saw a video about a Muslim girl who started doing stand-up, and she had to decide about, self-validation or the validation she would get from her community, which she craved, right? Which is also the same as, the attention you crave from your caregiver, right? Which is when your caregiver threatens to withdraw love from you and safety unless you conform and change your opinion, that's when a kid gets screwed up. That's when a kid doesn't know what he really wants, and he sublimates himself to his caregiver and then later to his religion or his community. And so people grow up not knowing what they really want. They don't really know what they want. People just do things reflexively or because their mind is conditioned. And I saw people in my family pick partners that they didn't really want and have lives that they didn't really choose. And I was determined not to let that happen to me, that I was going to make the unconscious conscious and choose my life consciously and live authentically. And I think I've done. And so it's hard. That's much harder to do. It sounds easy, but to understand why you really do what you do, what your motivations are, why you like what you like and what you dislike. Right. A lot of people don't know what they're. I was just watching this talk from Esther Perel, and she's this woman who's revolutionizing the way we look at marriages and relationships, desire, infidelity. And now I forgot what she was. I was going to say, but anyway,
it was really memorable, though.
It was really memorable. But anyway, so I've been. And then I've been using this COVID time to do a lot of that, a lot of self-reflection, listen to a lot of people like Ram Dass, Eckhart Tolle. I read all his books and both of them. And And it's amazing. There's, I first got interested in physics, the speed of light, and how
Oh my God.
time and matter are the same thing. Like that, just I couldn't wrap my head around it. And so when I realized that time doesn't really exist, and so the spiritual, the gurus talk about that, the mystics, about how time is only a construct on this level of consciousness, that time really doesn't exist, and that all possibilities of manifestations are actually happening on separate planes of consciousness at once, and this is the only one of them. And so then so that's what mystics have said, right? Forever. Jesus, and then, the people I know of personally, Eckhart Tolle, Ram Dass, even Alan Watts. So now there's physics. So when you go down to the smallest particle being, most of it's empty space. So an atom, if you took the nucleus of all the atoms in the world and you combine them, they would fill a football field, and the rest of the world is empty space. So and so if you go down to the smallest thing and you try to look at it, it disappears. There is no matter. Matter comes from nothing. Matter comes from consciousness. So there was this guy saying, there's this guy, he wrote a book called Infinite Possibilities. And he was a quantum physicist. So this is where quantum physics and mysticism cross. So he was saying, imagine you're on a plane, and imagine you look out the window over a body of water and you see all these white lines over the body of water. Well, those are crests of waves. Even though you can't see the wave because you're so far up, you just can see the crest, and then you see the ocean of water. But you know that there's a wave. You know it. And he said, that's what we are. So there is an ocean of energy, consciousness, and then there is a wave, and we are the crest of those waves. Everything you see in the physical universe is a crest of a wave of energy, and it's all one. And the best way to describe that is those energies are thoughts.
So people are saying in the chat a lot of things, but one of the things that I think is, and I always wonder, and I struggle with myself, is like, how do you stay angry and also like have a sense of humor and also think those things? And are you ever afraid that if you get too into this type of thinking, it's going to zap you of your humor and your edge and your kind of like darkness?
Yes, many times I've worried about that. And it turns out it's not a thing. Not going to happen.
And can you tell when you're like, do you get into a zone where you're like, okay, I'm triggered and I'm not triggered right now? Like, yes. And do you like, when you're not on air or when you're not off, and like, is there an on-off switch? Because I feel like you are pretty, as someone who's hung out with you, you're pretty similar to how you are. And I think I am too, although it's a little different, right? Like it's a little bit different, but, it's hard. How do you even try to apply like mindfulness to when you're on doing this type of show?
So yes,
or your show?
I've noticed. So that's the thing, right? So, my anger, I had suppressed, right? So I grew up Catholic, got the shit beat out of me in school, got the shit beat out of me at home, got the shit beat out of me at the park. It was I lived in a blue collar, rough neighborhood. And, so when I became a comedian, I didn't know you could, I had to suppress that anger, right? Well, I tried first to be angry like Bill Hicks, and that was a big mistake. And my girlfriend told me once, she said, you can't be angry on stage when you go up on stage. And I go, why? Bill Hicks is. She goes, yeah, well, Bill Hicks looks like he could be angry and should be angry. You look like you come from privilege. I go, but I didn't.
Right.
She goes, no one knows that. And I go, I came from tough streets and I fucking grew up, wearing hand-me-down. And she goes, no one knows that. And I was like, oh, fuck.
Wow.
And so I started to talk about things in a nice way. So I started to talk about things. I started to be charming, as if I was trying to get laid with the audience.
Right.
Instead of like I was trying to give them a punch in the face. And so that's how my comedy evolved from there on out. is that on stage I became a nicer version, a more charming. Even it's like the best version of myself as a stand-up comedian. And then, and if you look at my 2008 Citizen Jimmy Comedy Central special, award-winning, you'll see that guy. That's that nice guy. That's the guy who's charming, trying to get in your pants. And then I started working with the Young Turks and Cenk Uygur. And I'll never forget that day sitting there and Cenk Uygur just fucking blew his top. And I was like, what the fuck? You can do that? And not only that, but they loved it. And I was like, whoa, I'm going to give this a try. You could just fucking say what you want. It was a big opening for me artistically. And I owe Cenk Uygur that. And,
Wow.
And so from then on, you know, I just saw what Cenk did and I'm like, well, I could do that, I think, and I'll try. And turns out I had a talent for it. And so I just let it rip. I let it go. And what's been happening is that I have been listening and reading and becoming more spiritual and anything short of actually meditating. But that's my next step. I'm going to actually have to do that. I tried it once before at the beginning of the spiritual journey and it didn't work. So I've just kind of let it go. So
and when was that? When was the beginning, would you say, of the spiritual journey? Like when do you start? When does your market start?
I started it when I was young, probably when I was in college. I was reading self-help books, even probably high school. Well, like I said, whenever I saw Phil Downey, the head, Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra. So I was young. And then I tried meditating probably around 1999. And it didn't work. My back hurt and shit. And it just, so I just let it go. But I think I'm ready for it now.
Wow.
And so getting back to doing the show and having this knowledge. Yeah, I thought that it was good. Like I knew people needed to vent, right? And people needed to feel like, because people feel as angry as I am externally, they feel internally.
Right.
And so when they see me express it on my show externally, it calms them. It makes them feel like, oh, I'm not fucking crazy. Yeah. I'm not the only one who's this upset. We're supposed to all be this upset at this because what's happening is criminal. And now we're being told to accept it. And that makes you a grown-up. And that's crazy. So I was glad to provide that service to people, them people being able to vent through me. And, but I have to remember, when I let it get personal, which happens often, I'll feel depleted afterwards and it's not good. And I have to find ways to I don't mind punching up.
Right.
You know, but even that is getting a little bit much now. I don't know it just seems like I'm filled with impotent rage, like all, you know, even though in my mind and in the, you know, the way I look at what we do at our show, we've been out in front of all the other shows as far as how to think about politics, about Bernie Sanders, about what he's really doing, what his real role is, about the fucking Democratic Party, about keeping our vote away from them. I was saying that 4 years ago, and now everybody is saying it, except now everybody getting scared enough by Donald Trump. You know, pledging your vote to someone before an election is not how politics works. I don't know, in the last couple of years, somehow people I respect have gotten it in their mind that that's how politics works, that you're supposed to pledge your vote to a candidate because the other candidate is so horrible, you're not supposed to even ask this candidate for anything, which is, again, this is not how politics is supposed to work. It works today when all the media is owned by the same 6 fucking billionaires and they're completely corrupted. That's how it works today. That's the culture today. But that's not how politics you're supposed. So if Joe Biden wants us to vote for him, he's supposed to come get our fucking vote.
Right.
And by offering us less than Hillary Clinton offered us, he's not actually trying to get our vote. And so what does this do? This cements corruption. And when you pledge your vote to a corrupt politician, corruption before the election, the chances that you're going to move that guy after are zero. Now you're just voting for another problem. And by the way, the reason why we got Donald Trump is directly tied to Joe Biden. So this idea that, but Trump is so bad, this is the one. They've been saying this for 40 fucking years. And so I know I got off on a tangent. We were supposed to talk about the anger and how, but this still drives me crazy. And I'm willing to take I was critical of Bernie early on and took a lot of jabs and kicks in the teeth, and lots of people dismissed me over it and said I was loose cannon and I was over the top. And now everybody sees it fucking my way. And everybody said I was nuts with Russiagate. Now everybody understands why. This is an evidence-free fucking conspiracy theory. Everyone thought I was crazy with Syria, and now the fourth whistleblower at the OPCW. It's not fucking hard if I can do it. That's what makes me the angriest, Katie, is I can do it. And if I fucking can do it, you know those assholes at MSNBC and Chris Hayes can do it, because Chris Hayes is 10 times fucking smarter than me. He just doesn't have any character.
Yeah, well, someone wrote, Monetizing Dissent wrote, the more you love, the angrier you get about the fact that the capitalist system is actually antithetical to both love and life, which I think is a good way of putting it. I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but so the more you love life, the angrier you get about the fact that the capitalist system is actually antithetical to both love and life, which I think is true, right? I think that as the opposite side of rage often is love. Yeah.
That's how it is for me during sex anyway.
The opposite side of rage. Okay, yeah. That's why we get along, I think.
Katie, God damn it, you really are looking good. Your hair is a little It's like fucking.
And you know what? I got it cut, but I passed the test because I just washed it and I never do anything to my hair. But sometimes you get a haircut, they blow it out and then it looks great, but then you wash it. But I think that looks thanks.
I agree. Hang on, I have to get a plug for my computer. It's about to die. Hang on.
All right. Yeah, this is a sign of Jimmy that I think most people don't know about. It's pretty good. Oh, by the way, shameless.
Okay, I got it.
Shameless pitch to subscribe to patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And of course, to most of you already do, but make sure you check out Jimmy.
Is this live? Is this anybody can watch this? I thought this was for your Patreon.
Oh no.
Oh, no kidding. I would have tweeted it.
Oh no, that's so you can still do that, but we can also do another time or whatever. Yeah, go do it.
Okay. Let me grab my phone.
Okay, cool. Great.
So I can tweet it out.
Oh, thanks. Oh no, yeah. Guys, I had some chocolate ice cream today. It's so good, by the way.
Oh, hang on. 1 second. My air conditioning guy just called me as I'm talking to you, and I'm out of air conditioning. And it's 100 degrees. Yes, hi. This is James.
This is great. So tell me what wouldn't it be great if the air conditioning guy was like, I was just watching you on Katie Halper's live stream, and you really inspired me. What you said about. Are they coming? Is he coming?
Yes, fucking great news. I called 10 places today. Nobody was coming because it's Sunday.
Right.
And it's 1,000,000 degrees in California right now. So everybody's in high demand. And thank God he's coming. He's going to be here in 15 minutes. I'm so excited.
Oh, great. Perfect.
Awesome. This is great. Oh, this is so great.
You see, that's like paying it. The universe listened to you. You manifested that and the universe listened to you.
But I have AC in my studio here. So I was thinking I was going to have to sleep in my studio tonight. So at least I had.
So that's where you are now. You're in your studio.
Yeah.
AC. Got it. Okay. Got it. Yeah. You know, it's funny. I think that some people are acknowledging. I think maybe you either overestimate or I underestimate, or we've run into different people. I think, sure, some people are finally conceding that Russiagate was a hoax, finally conceding the serious stuff, but not as many people as I would have expected or hoped for, I guess.
No.
But some, yeah.
I'm tweeting it out right now, Katie.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Right, here we go. I'm with Katie right now! Exclamation point! I say to people.
I said.
So there you go. I tweeted it out.
Thank you. Awesome.
So what was your? Sorry, tell me your question again.
No, that I think that some people have come around, others haven't.
Oh.
And I do think the most interesting thing about all of this is the issue of promising I've said this before, I'm going to give it away a bit. I get saying behind closed doors that no matter what, you're going to vote for Trump. Like, I get that. And you and I may disagree with that. And I don't honestly know where I am. I think I agree with that. But what I really don't get is like, and I'm going to ask you about that part of it. But this one part I definitely agree with you on, which is that it's very, why would you say that out loud? Like, I understand
that you're going to vote for Biden, you mean?
Yeah, sorry. I always do that Freudian slip. Yeah. I get that. Like, I get the idea. Look, Biden's not good. There's so many things that we need to get from him. But ultimately, even if Biden doesn't concede at all, it's more important to get Trump out of office. But what I don't get is why people
would say that.
Will say it out loud. Yeah.
Right. Why not make Joe Biden a little nervous? Like,
yeah.
Why not make Joe Biden at least do what Hillary Clinton did and say, I'm going to give you Medicare for all for 50 and over. He's going 60. Why wouldn't you do that? So you know that's doable. If we could get that from Hillary Clinton 4 fucking years ago, we should be able to get that from Joe Biden. We don't even get it. He won't even give us health care in a pandemic. How could you in good conscience vote for a guy who won't give Americans health care in a pandemic? You're not doing it in good conscience. You're doing it out of fear and fucked up thinking. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And why? And so, if you're going to vote for Joe Biden, why wouldn't you make that decision 5 seconds before you walk into the booth? Why wouldn't you keep trying to pressure him to fucking meet you and earn your vote? So that like I had Aaron Matei on last night, who I love. You know, he does great work, and I just chalk it up to that he's young. And he hasn't been around for enough of these. He hasn't seen enough of this. I've seen this since 1980, right? I started to become aware of politics. I see how this stuff works. And voting for the lesser of two evil gets you Donald Trump. That's exactly what we got. And so, you know, I didn't say this to Aaron, which is what I will next time I have him on to debate it, is that why wouldn't you say, I'm voting for whoever gives me health care, or I'm voting for whoever makes student debt erased, or I'm voting for whoever has a jobs program, or I'm voting for whoever makes marijuana legal and cleans out the prison, or just one of those things. Why wouldn't you make any demand on a guy who's asking for your vote? That's how it's supposed to work. But for some reason, we've all been fucking brainwashed in America on the left that you're not allowed to ask for anything from the politicians who are asking for your vote. You're just supposed to vote for them. I've seen fucking asshole blue check people left and right going, oh, is Kamala Harris not perfect enough for you? No, I get to demand that she earns my fucking vote, you lemming. You know who talks like that, Katie? Dictators talk like that. That's who fucking talks like that. You don't get to question your politicians. You don't get to ask them for shit. You got to do what we say and fall in line. That's what fucking dictators like. And guess what? There's a lot of people who love authoritarianism on the left. There is no fucking left in America. Cocksucking Bernie Sanders threw it away.
Yeah. I think that, you know, I definitely I wonder sometimes, though, if there should be like different. I definitely think that there are different roles people can play. But I do think that there has to be some people who are saying, I'm not going to just vote for Trump no matter what.
I mean Biden.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, Biden. And I mean, so that's one issue, right? There's like the strategic, like the tell whether or not you're going to admit that or not. And I do think that, I think people could argue, and I think Brianna Joy Gray kind of made this argument on my show, which is that like, she said basically, I would like to be able to pull the lever for Biden. I would love that, but I would like for him to actually make me want to vote for him. Which is a different thing, I think, from saying that either they're so I was just saying that Brianna Joy Gray, she was on my show and she said, I would like to vote for Biden. She was basically saying, like, I would really like to be able to vote for Biden, and I'm just asking that he actually do something so I feel like I can vote for him. Like which I'm surprised isn't said more.
Right?
It's a pretty logical argument, right? And you're not like giving and you're not alienating. I mean, I think that's a lane that a lot of people could be taking.
I agree with you, and I don't understand why more people aren't taking that lane. It's like, could you not make me feel like a fucking cuck to vote for you? Could you not make me feel like I'm a fucking your slave boy? I'm just like a bitch. Can you just give me fucking something, a crumb I can fucking hang my hat on? No, they won't fucking do it. They won't do it. It's 100% corrupt. You know, Pramila Jayapal's big thing is Medicare for all. She was invited to be on the task force of the healthcare. Do you know in not one of the meetings did she bring up Medicare for all? She didn't even bring it up. So why would you go be a part of that fucking task force if you know you're not going to be allowed to bring up the solution? And why wasn't she allowed to bring up the solution, Katie? Because of corruption. It wasn't because Joe Biden's people didn't think Medicare for all is a good idea. They all know it's the solution to our problem. The reason why she wasn't allowed to even bring it up is because of fucking money and corruption. Because they're paid to make sure you don't get health care. Why would fucking she take part in that? Why would she give her imprimatur to a piece of shit fucking commission like that? Because they're all broken. Because the squad is broken, Bernie's broken, AOC is broken, every fucking politician is broken in the brain. None of them are serving you. They're all mediocre narcissists at best to start with, and now they're even and when they reveal themselves and the left doesn't fucking see it on purpose, that's what also drives me fucking crazy. AOC voted for the largest upward transfer of wealth in the history of the human race and then lied about it. And lied how she voted, and another YouTube host pushed that lie for her. It's a fucking lie. So did The Intercept. The Intercept was just a garbage fucking organization. Garbage. They are fucking garbage. And how anybody could work there and have an ounce of self-respect is fucking beyond me. They are the biggest evidence-free conspiracy theorists in the country, and they're pushing war all the fucking time. That's the thing that Glenn Greenwald started. How the fuck did that happen?
Imagine, Jimmy, if you didn't do this work and the spiritual journey, you'd be so angry.
So it's called being in the world, but not of it. So I'm in the world. So I have one foot in the world. I still give a shit.
Right.
But I have another foot outside the world that lets me know that everything that is happening right now is perfect anyway. Right. How could that be, Jimmy?
Yeah, I find that a hard thing, but I get it. I get where it comes from, and I think I try to trick myself about that.
So that's the whole part about being in the world and not of it. So in Hindus, sometimes from my experience, you have your karma. You take physical form. You're a spirit. You're a soul. You're part of the one consciousness. You manifest physically to get rid of some of your karma, your spiritual karma, right? So that's why we manifest physically, to work out karma. And so when you're suffering, that's part of your karma. You have to go through that. But we should also try to help suffering. We should be compassionate. Right. So while you're in the world, you try to be of service and be compassionate, but also understand that this is this person. So that's how it doesn't eat you up inside, because you also know this is this person's karma and they have to have this experience, although you can try to make it as comfortable for them as possible. Right. So if you look, another way to put this, if you look with a microscope inside your body, underneath your skin, it looks like there's a war going on, right? There's the T cells and the white corpuscles, and they're all fighting other cells, and the viruses and the bacteria, and everything's fighting and killing each other as a war. But if you pull out a little farther, it looks like a perfectly self-regulating organism. And maybe that's how it is with Earth. If you pull out a little bit farther from Earth, it's like, oh, it's a perfectly self-regulating organism. And right now it's heating up a little bit, so it's going to shake it off. It's getting a little fever to shake off this virus. And the virus is us.
Yeah, you know what I really can't deal with is the God moves in mysterious ways. Everything happens for a reason. Because it's such I get it as a coping mechanism, because I do get that it's like there are things that you can't change, right? And you don't want to drive yourself crazy, but you also do want to do everything you can to change it, right? But I've always found it annoying, like God, he moves in mysterious ways, because unless you're the person, and then it's different and it's unhealthy in a different way. If you like lost people in the Holocaust and you say God moves in mysterious ways, that's like weird, but it's slightly less dickish, I think, than if you haven't lost people like family in the Holocaust and you look at that or something else and you're like, God moves in mysterious ways. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like, There's just something that's a little bit of a fuck you to all the people who have gone through shit.
Well, what you understand is that we fear death because we don't understand it, because we forgot who we really are. When you get birthed, you do this thing, you forget. And why? Because it makes this manifestation more fun if you forget that you're really all one and there is no separation. And that when you die, actually, the way it's been described to me, it's like taking off an uncomfortable shoe. So the person who's dead doesn't feel bad. They feel great. They're back to the source. They're back to the one. And so there is, and by the way, there is no death. I mean, there is death. Your physical body, it doesn't really die. It just changes forms, because we know that from physics, right? That energy cannot be created or destroyed. It only changes forms. So death is not, people go, well, I don't want to lose my life. You're never going to lose your life, because there is no opposite to life. They go, well, death is the opposite to life. It is not. Death is the opposite of birth. There is no opposite to life. You never really die. You just change forms. And so I don't know what did I answer the question?
Yeah. I mean, I think they're big questions that I want to read. This is a nice comment. Props to Jimmy for being one of the few anti-imperialists on the left. He sees not only the domestic damage of presence, but also the international damage, which is why he can see the similarities others miss. Respect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That is a huge thing, by the way, which is the national. We have a bunch of liberal nationalists, basically, or nationalist liberals, right? Who, even with the Tom Cotton thing, which was terrible. And I remember Max Blumenthal pointed this out, and I thought of it too, and some other people pointed this out too, which is that, like, no one cares about our government actually supporting violent counter-insurrections in other countries, but they care about and they should care about it. It's good to be upset by Tom Cotton's point, but it is funny how, like, no one really cares about it outside of the borders of this country.
Well, what's amazing to me is how pro-war the whole goddamn party politic is. There's no anti-war party. There's no anti-war sect of a party. There's no nothing. Yep. They're all pro-war. All of them. Fucking, Bernie Russiagated, for fuck's sake. And what is Russiagate? That's attacking Trump from the right. That's asking Trump to be more bellicose with another nuclear power. That's what Bernie did. Yeah, right. And of course, as predicted 4 years ago by me, it's going to be used against him. And of course it was, right before the Nevada primary. What did the CIA do? They came out with a bullshit. Hey, the Russians are helping Bernie. How? I don't know. And what did Bernie do? He affirmed it, because Bernie's a cuck. And he is a sheep herder for the Democratic Party. He's not an independent, and he's not your friend. He's going to give you as much reform as Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi will let him give you. He got his mind right, and he got his mind right a long time ago.
He did say, what did he say? He was like, look, Putin's bad guy, blah, blah. And then he was like, they're like, why do you think this is coming out now? And he's like, what do you think? Who came out with this? Washington Post?
Yeah.
There you go. So yes, but he should have doubled down more.
Why wouldn't you lead with that? Why would that be the fucking, that was his afterthought. His first thought was, I'm saying this to Putin. He needs to stay out of our elections. That's what he did.
Yeah.
And to me, Katie, you and I both know that he knows better. And he would do it anyway. Why? Because he's a politician. And so he's willing to lie to people, push an evidence-free conspiracy theory, because it would be too hard to actually push against it. That's a coward.
Yeah, I mean, I think not surprising to anyone probably who knows me, I have a slightly different take on the Sanders thing. I do think he made mistakes. I do think he's someone just wrote this, I can't find it, but a decent person.
What kind of decent person votes for the largest transfer of wealth in the history of the fucking human race and doesn't do anything about it, doesn't stand up against it, doesn't call out the leadership about it, and then fucking sends me emails telling me all the good shit they got? You know who does that? A fucking politician who doesn't have a fucking spine or integrity. That's who does that. Bernie has situational integrity. Situational.
But you don't think that he thinks that in that situation it's the best, it was better than the alternative?
No, because I knew it wasn't.
So what do you think he should have done? Not rhetorical question.
Well, I've said on my show many times, and we said it the day that he voted for this. was what he should have done was a week earlier. He should have started rallying the NGOs, and he should have started rallying the progressives and saying, this is bullshit. This is our time. This is when we have leverage. And he should have pushed back against Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and said, we're in the middle of a pandemic. And if you're going to give $5 trillion to the richest motherfuckers in this country, you better give everybody health care right now, or I ain't voting for it. And I'm going to start rallying people to vote against it. And you fuckers aren't going to be able to get it. And if you do get your $5 trillion, the whole country's going to know this is corruption. AOC did that. She went and gave a speech and said, what we're getting is crumbs. Why didn't Bernie Sanders do that? Why didn't they go to every news outlet and say this is ridiculous? Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are negotiating our future away. They didn't do that. In fact, they voted for it. And this idea that Bernie is so fucking stupid that he didn't know that was a huge boner is now who's being naive. You think Bernie's dumber than me? He's not. He knew exactly what he's doing. Bernie has situational integrity, and he doesn't have the balls to stand up against the largest transfer of wealth in the history of the human race, which is why Bernie Sanders is fucking worthless, which is why he turned his back on his fucking movement at the drop of a dime. Couldn't fucking wait to sell us out. And what did he get for it? Absolutely nothing. Nothing. He got less than he got from Hillary Clinton 4 fucking years later.
So
that's why the country's in the fucking way it is, because we don't have a progressive leader worth a shit